Huskies win 79-73 and improve to 1-0 on the season. Welcome to my OI. My name is Chris Crawford. Those of you who have known me for a while know that I am probably best known for covering the well, best known makes it sound like I'm famous. You may have heard of me from talking about the Mariners either on KJR or NBC Sports or my OI, where I recap every Mariner game. But starting this year, I have started recapping every Seattle Seahawks game. I do a weekly Kraken recap, and I'm going to do a Washington Husky basketball recap for every single game as well. And starting next year, I will also do the football team. I just didn't have time to do the football games. So for those of you unfamiliar with how this works, I recap every game, like I said. And when they win, I start with the negative and I build up to the positive. If somehow the Washington Huskies lose a big game, lose a game, not a big game, a game. I actually don't know what that word was before game. But if the Huskies do not go 37-0 or whatever it would be, we will do the opposite. But today's a win, so let's start with the negative. And I think there's actually quite a bit of negative. I don't want to go too crazy here, but this was not an impressive performance. Number one, it's against UC Davis, who's projected, and projections. I think tonight we may have learned something about projections. Moving on. Say what you will about projections, but UC Davis is projected to be a mid-tier Big West team. There's some good players, and they were a pretty good team last year. I think they went 14-6 in conference, and, that's good. You watch the talent level here, and there's a discrepancy. But the talent of the Washington Huskies didn't play particularly well, and in particular, the guards. Now, the reason why I don't want to go too negative here is while the Huskies have a team of experience, they don't have a team of experienced players. I mean, outside of Kepnang, everything else on this team is brand new. And they have so little cohesion. And that was very clear to me. Very clear to me. I saw some good things in terms of leadership. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But in terms of actual basketball cohesion, I think you saw that there's work to be done here, and in particular with the guards. I also want to go not too crazy in these talking about individual players because, yes, NIL, yes, some of these players are getting a very hefty amount of money, but they're still 17, probably closer, most of them 18 now, 18 to 22-year-olds. A few maybe a little bit older. I feel weird criticizing them too much, it's just different. I feel more comfortable criticizing a Major League Baseball player or a NFL football player or when the Sonics come back or the Kraken. So I don't want to go too nuts with individual insults. But I will just say we don't have to go too nuts with individual insults here too because the guards were bad. DJ Davis, Courtwright, Iheanacho, Mason. There was one exception to that we'll talk about. Just weren't good enough. And it wasn't just that they weren't making shots. I don't think they did a good enough job initiating the offense. There was a little too much stagnant for me. I want to see more ball movement. And I think that will come as that group gets together. But it's got to come together quicker because if the Huskies are going to be a tournament team, and I don't think they will, I will get that out of the way right now. If I was making a projection for the Huskies, I would guess that they're probably a 16 or so win team, and they probably go, I think it's 20 conference wins. I probably should have, or 20 conference games. I hope it's 20 conference wins. I would guess that they're a 7 to 9 win conference team, maybe on the lower end of that. I can't see on the higher end. I can't, just because of how much moving pieces they have. And there's only one great, literally only one great player on this team. Now, I think that they're building something. I have no doubt that Danny Sprinkle is the right man for the job. I'm a huge fan of that hire, and I think he's going to build something special. But I don't think this is a tournament team. I think they have a chance to be going forward, but not this year. But if they are going to be that, or even if they're just not going to be a bottom dweller, the guard play is going to have to be significantly better here. Not only are they going to have to make shots, not only are they going to have to do a better job with ball movement, not only are they going to have to do a better job of avoiding some turnovers, they're going to have to do a better job of getting the 3-point defense tonight really struggled. Now, it ends up not hurting them too much because you take a look here and you see they go 6 for 27. If you take a look at that game, there were a lot of times where they struggled with rotations or just struggled to get the hands up. And a better shooting game from Ty Johnson, who I know scores a bunch of points tonight, or Chappelle, or a few of their other guys. I know DeBrule made a couple of threes. A better shooting night from those guys. There were some wide open looks that they just missed. That's got to be better too. That has certainly got to be better. Finally, for the negatives, free throw shooting was just abysmal. And we'll talk about one guy in particular that really struggled at the line. It's probably the thing I'm least concerned about for reasons we'll talk about in just a sec. But 21 of 38 is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And that's crazy to think, considering the Huskies might have the best free throw shooter in the country in DJ Davis. But he only gets to the line literally at the end of the game. Like literally the end of the game. I think there was something like 12 seconds left when he got those 2 free throws. But a bunch of guys really struggled at the line tonight. One in particular. I promise we'll talk about it. But first, before we get into the good, Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Awesome stuff for the Mariners, Kraken, Seahawks, Huskies, Cougars, Storm, Sounders. Probably won't do a lot of Cougar reads now that I think about it for this one, but they do have it. Use code MOLLYWOP15. That's MOLLYWHOP15. For those of you new to the channel, that's supporting not only this channel, but also Mollywop Monday, the segment that me, Nathan Bishop, Ian Furness do on KJR. Furness. I got a Cougar's name wrong in a Husky read. That's phenomenal. That's our weekly Mariner recap show, but it shows you're supporting both, and it really helps you because it gets 15% off your order, but it also shows you're paying attention to those shows. I really appreciate it. MOLLYWHOP15. There's a link in the description. I can't appreciate the support enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Simply Seattle, and thank you for supporting Simply Seattle as well. All right, the positives. Let's start with, boy, this is a tough one because I want to end with great because he was great despite the free throw shooting. Let's start with Zoom Diallo, who I thought played a really strong game, especially for his very first game. You see the talent. You see the ability to create his own shot. He was the one guy I thought, too, who kind of kept the offense moving. And that's why I think he led the team in assists. Yep, he did with 4. Did a pretty solid job defensively, makes all 4 of his free throws. The only guy outside of DJ Davis, who I guess Iheanacho went 2 for 2 as well. But I was really impressed. And I had some doubts about how quickly Diallo could make an impact just based on some people I had talked to, and that maybe his game was a little bit built for the long term more than short-term success. But I think you have to give a ton of credit to Sprinkle in tapping into it as quick as he can, because not only did he look great tonight, he reportedly looked really, really good in that exhibition. And of course, that was against a well overmatched team, but it's still really impressive to see him make an immediate impact. He is clearly, based on what I saw tonight, the most talented guard that they have. And look, Mekhi Mason ended up having a fine game. Iheanacho and DJ Davis is going to be a heck of a lot better. A heck of a lot better. And, Courtwright has had success as well, and I think he'll be better going forward. He can't be, let's just be honest. Davis and Courtwright combined to go 1 for 13. They can't get worse. I mean, technically they can by 1 shot. But I think those guys are going to play better. especially as the cohesion, which I've said quite a bit in this video, probably titled this one Cohesion, to be honest with you. They're going to be better, but there was very little doubt to me that this is the most talented guard that they have. Is he their best guard? I don't know yet. Probably not. Probably not. But he's the guy who, if he is this guy and maybe takes a little bit of, not even a huge step forward, a modicum, just gets a little bit better as we keep going. If he could be that 14-point, 5-assist player to pair with a really, really good big man, you got a shot. And at the very least, it'll keep you competitive. I thought Tyler Harris did a pretty nice job. Nice job on the boards for sure. Frank Kepnang wasn't great, but I thought he had one of the biggest baskets of the game when Great misses those free throws. And again, we'll talk about it. Tipping that basketball in and showing that athleticism. I think that was huge. What I think was really huge, and I know it's only 5 shots, getting that stretch from Breidenbach, who I just love. I mean, you just look at the guy, and how can you not love him? How can you not love him? And then you combine it with the name Wilhelm Breidenbach and perfection. Mwah. But getting some offense from him was massive because their bench tonight was not good. Well, Diallo counts as the bench, and Tyler Harris. So, okay, their bench was not great. So weird saying great because, the other guy. But getting any offense from him and being a solid sub for Kepnang, I thought was massive. If he can be, and look, I know he's got an peculiar look, but it's not like this guy was like a 2-star find. This guy was a highly recruited player for Nebraska and showed some flashes last year. Showed some flashes in 2022, 2023, or 2023, 2024. Time is a construct. Great effort from him. Great effort. And speaking of great, I mean, look, the free throws for Great Osobor. 7 for 16 is awful. If you watched him shooting, right, you take a look at some strokes and you say, oh, this is going to be an issue. But when you combine actually watching those, and yes, he had the air ball, and I think it got to him maybe pressing a little bit. You saw him when he took a seat on the bench for a second, really just give that, what is going on? Look, it happens. First ever game as a Husky. So the free throw shooting's got to be better. And there were some turnovers as well. If you didn't watch this dude play and say, oh my goodness gracious, this is a special college basketball player, we have very different definitions. Very different definitions. Different definitions. For those of you new, yes, you will hear mistakes like that a lot. Number one, because I have no edit button. Literally and figuratively. I record these and then I post them. I mean, I thought he was one of their best distributors. I thought he was, I'd like to see more than 8 shots from him. Now, look, one of the reasons only 8 shots is because he got fouled a lot and he didn't make his foul shots. But he's like a career 65% free throw shooter, which is obviously far from elite. It's a heck of a lot better than 7 for 16. If he goes 10 for 16, we'll take that. We want better, but we'll take that. 7 for 16 isn't good enough. I have my doubts he's going to be a 7 for 16, a below 50% free throw shooter. Heck, well below 50% free throws. Makes one, it's 50. Shut up. Not only that, the effort he made defensively. Yes, 17 rebounds and 15 of those defensive rebounds, 2 on the offensive glass. That's great. 6 steals and a couple other plays where he absolutely caused turnovers. By forced turnovers, he's got to be close to 10. He is a phenomenal college basketball player. Yes, I'd like to see a little more aggressiveness, and I would like to obviously Said it a bunch. See him make more free throws. But you saw why this guy has a chance to be a top 10 player in college basketball. He doesn't have a chance to be a top 10 pick because he doesn't have the skill set to play, in my humble estimation, at the highest level to justify taking with that high of a draft pick. I'd certainly want him on my NBA team because he's a really good defensive player, and I think he can hold his own against 4s and 5s. But, he's got to be a better outside shooter and do a better job on the free throw line. Did you know he struggled today at the free throw line? I still was unbelievably impressed with the effort that he made. That was, and look, I've followed Washington Huskies basketball as closely as anything for the last 20 years. Can't off the top of my head think of a more impressive debut than the one he had. And sure, came against a mediocre at best and probably well below mediocre, for being completely forthright, basketball team. And if you just want to point at the free throw stats, that is, go for it. If you watched the game and if you watched the impact that he made, particularly on the defensive end, I don't see how you couldn't have been impressed by that. And as disappointing as a 6-point win against UC Davis is, I still come away optimistic because of how impressed I was by Diallo and Osobor. I think that has a chance to be maybe special's too strong a word, but pretty darn close to it. So good win. Tomorrow, the Washington Huskies don't play. But next week, they'll take on Nevada, a much better test. Nevada is a solid basketball team, and they're playing in Nevada. They will have to play much better than they did tonight to win that game. But there are definitely flashes that I saw from this that suggest that Washington has a chance to be a pretty good basketball team. A great basketball team? No. A championship contending basketball team? Absolutely not. But good and entertaining. And that chance to give you a good enough season to feel good about what Washington can do going forward. I'd appreciate you hitting like. I'd appreciate you hitting subscribe. This was fun. This was fun to talk about the Huskies. I wish they played a little better, but I came away optimistic because the Washington Huskies have a really good freshman, and they have one of the 10 best players in college basketball. Can do a lot worse.